My husband and my mill were excited when I was pregnant with twins, but when I got to know about the reason behind that excitement, I was shocked. I, 28F, am currently pregnant with twins, and at first, I was overjoyed. My husband, 30M, seemed thrilled too, and he's been incredibly supportive since we found out. However, I can't shake this nagging feeling that something isn't quite right. When we first discovered I was pregnant, my husband was excited but not overly so. He hugged me, kissed me, and told me he was happy. It was a normal reaction, I thought. We went to the first ultrasound together, holding hands in the waiting room. The technician did her thing, and then she paused, looked at the screen more closely, and said, "Congratulations, it looks like you're having twins." That's when things started to change. My husband's face lit up like I'd never seen before. He practically jumped out of his chair, hugging me tightly and kissing my forehead. He kept saying, "Twins! We're having twins!" over and over. I was happy too, but his reaction seemed almost over the top. From that day on, my husband became super attentive. He started doing all the household chores without me asking. He'd wake up early to make me breakfast in bed, complete with prenatal vitamins and a glass of fresh orange juice. He'd rush home from work to give me foot rubs and ask about my day. He even downloaded a bunch of pregnancy apps and started reading parenting books about raising twins. Don't get me wrong, I appreciated all of this, but it was such a stark change from his usual behavior that it made me wonder. He'd never been a slob or anything, but he'd also never been this proactive about housework or this attentive to my needs. Then there was the issue with my mother-in-law, MIL. She and I have never had the best relationship. She's always been polite but cold towards me, and I often felt like she didn't think I was good enough for her son. When we told her about the pregnancy, she smiled and congratulated us, but it was pretty lukewarm. However, when my husband excitedly told her we were having twins, her entire demeanor changed. She squealed with delight, hugged me, which she's never done before, and started talking about all the things she wanted to buy for the babies. She called me the next day to ask how I was feeling and if I needed anything. She even offered to come over and help with housework or cooking. Again, I should have been thrilled. My MIL was finally warming up to me, but it all felt so sudden and out of character that I couldn't help but feel suspicious. As my pregnancy progressed, both my husband and Mill's behavior became even more intense. He suggested I quit my job to focus on the pregnancy and raising the babies. He even talked about hiring a full-time nanny to help out. My Mill, meanwhile, became a constant presence in our lives. She'd come over several times a week, always bringing gifts for the babies or home-cooked meals for us. She started planning a massive baby shower and talking about how she wanted to be in the delivery room when the twins were born. All of this attention and care should have made me feel loved and supported. Instead, I found myself growing more and more anxious. Why were they both so fixated on the fact that we were having twins? Why did it seem like the babies were all they could talk about? I tried to brush off my concerns. Pregnancy hormones can make you paranoid, right? But the feeling wouldn't go away. I started noticing little things that made me even more suspicious. One day, I overheard my husband on the phone with his mother. He was talking in a low voice, and I only caught snippets of the conversation. Need to be careful. Don't want her to suspect. Everything's going according to plan. When he saw me, he quickly ended the call and acted like nothing was wrong. My MIL started asking odd questions too. She wanted to know if twins ran in my family, if I'd used any fertility treatments, and even what my blood type was. When I asked why she wanted to know, she laughed it off and said she was just being a curious grandma-to-be. I tried to talk to my best friend about my concerns, but she told me I was being ridiculous. "You're so lucky," she said. "Your husband is being amazing and your MIL is finally accepting you. Why can't you just enjoy it?" But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Why were they so obsessed with the twins? Why did their behavior change so dramatically? And what was with all the secrecy and weird questions? I know I should be grateful for all the support and care I'm receiving. My husband has been attentive to my every need, making sure I'm comfortable and well-fed. He's been to every doctor's appointment, asks intelligent questions, and seems genuinely interested in every aspect of the pregnancy. My MIL has been equally involved. She's offered to host a gender reveal party, has been knitting, matching blankets for the twins, and keeps sending us articles about raising multiples. She's even talked about moving closer to us so she can help out more once the babies arrive. I know I should be over the moon with all this attention and support, but instead, I find myself lying awake at night, wondering what's really going on. Am I just being paranoid and ungrateful? Or is there something sinister behind their sudden obsession with my twin pregnancy? I've tried to subtly probe for more information, but both my husband and MIL are quick to change the subject when I ask too many questions. They keep saying I should just relax and enjoy being pregnant, that they want to take care of everything for me, but their firmness on handling everything only makes me more suspicious. I've even started to wonder if they know something about the twins that they're not telling me. Did the doctor say something to my husband that he's keeping from me? Is there a medical issue they're trying to hide? Or is it something else entirely? I feel guilty for having these thoughts. My husband has been nothing but loving and supportive. He massages my swollen feet every night, makes sure I'm taking all my vitamins, and has even started learning how to cook healthier meals for me. He talks to my belly every night, telling the twins stories and how much he loves them already. My mill calls every day to check on me, sends care packages filled with pregnancy-safe teas and lotions, and has offered to pay for a doula to help with the birth. She's planning a lavish baby shower and has already started a college fund for the twins. I know I should be grateful. Many women would kill to have this level of support during their pregnancy, but I can't help feeling like there's more to the story. The way they exchange glances when they think I'm not looking, the hushed phone conversations that stop when I enter the room, the excessive enthusiasm that seems forced at times, it all adds up to something that doesn't feel right. Should I confront them about my suspicions? Or am I risking ruining the newfound peace in our family? Am I just being hormonal and paranoid? Or are my instincts telling me something important? I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to enjoy this pregnancy and the support I'm receiving, but another part of me can't shake the feeling that there's a secret being kept from me. A secret. That involves my unborn children. I'm torn between gratitude and suspicion, and I don't know which feeling to trust. So, Reddit, am I wrong for not simply accepting this sudden outpouring of love and support? Should I be investigating further, or should I just count my blessings and enjoy the rest of my pregnancy? I'm lost and confused, and I could really use some outside perspective on this situation. Update. I'm sorry I haven't updated in a while. Everything has been a blur and I've been too devastated to write about what happened. But I feel like I need to share this, even if I can't go into much detail right now. I went into labor at 38 weeks. My husband rushed me to the hospital and my Emile met us there. The delivery was long and difficult. I was in labor for almost 24 hours. Throughout it all, my husband and Emile were by my side, encouraging me and telling me how strong I was. Finally, I heard a cry. Then another. The nurses took the babies away quickly to clean them up and check their vitals. I was exhausted but so happy. My husband kissed my forehead and told me how proud he was of me. But then things got strange. The doctors and nurses were whispering. My husband and Mel left the room to see the babies. When they came back, something was off. They looked upset, but they tried to hide it. A doctor came in and told me that one of my babies hadn't made it. They said it was a stillbirth, that sometimes these things happen with twins. I was in shock. I couldn't process what they were saying. How could this be? I had heard 2 cries. I asked to see my babies. They brought in one beautiful, healthy baby girl, but they told me the other baby had already been taken away. It was too late, they said. There was nothing they could have done. I am devastated. How could I have lost a baby without knowing? Why didn't they tell me sooner? Why didn't I get to see or hold my other baby? My husband told me to focus on our surviving daughter. He said we should be grateful that we have her. My mill agreed, saying we should count our blessings. But something doesn't feel right. I can't shake the feeling that I'm not being told the whole truth. Why won't they let me see my other baby? Why won't they give me a clear explanation of what happened? I'm too heartbroken and confused to think clearly. I love my daughter, but I'm mourning the twin I never got to meet. And underneath it all, that. Nagging suspicion is still there, telling me that something isn't adding up. I'm sorry I can't write more right now. It's too painful, and I'm too confused. I don't know what to think or feel. I'm grateful for my daughter, but I'm grieving for her twin. And I'm scared that there's something my husband and Mill aren't telling me. I don't know what to do next. I'm lost in a fog of grief and suspicion. If anyone has been through something similar or has any advice, please let me know. I feel so alone right now, even with my family around me. I just want to know the truth about what happened to my babies. Update. It's been 2 years since I gave birth to my twins and was told that one of them didn't survive. 2 years of grief, confusion, and a nagging feeling that something wasn't right. I've learned to hide my pain, to focus on raising my daughter, and to try to move forward with my life. But everything I thought I knew was shattered in a single afternoon. My mother came to visit me one day when my husband was at work. She seemed nervous and asked to talk to me alone. Once we were seated in the living room, she took a deep breath and told me she had something important to share. What she said next turned my world upside down. My mother told me that my twin child didn't die 2 years ago. It was all a lie, a carefully orchestrated plan by my husband and his mother to give one of my babies to my husband's infertile sister and her husband. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt like I was in a nightmare. My mother explained that she had learned about this from a close friend of my husband's sister. At first, she didn't want to believe it either, but she started investigating. She had gathered proof, a recorded phone call, and some paperwork related to the adoption. My mother said she waited to tell me until she had enough evidence. She didn't want to upset me without being absolutely certain. She played the recorded call for me. It was between my husband's sister and her friend, discussing how they got one of my babies. They talked about the plan, how my MIL and husband had arranged everything with a corrupt doctor. I felt sick to my stomach. All the suspicions I had during my pregnancy, all the weird behavior from my husband and male, it all suddenly made sense. They had been planning this all along. I was in shock, but as the reality of what had happened sank in, I felt a rage unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. How could they do this to me? How could they steal my child and let me believe she was dead for 2 years? I thanked my mother for telling me the truth, painful as it was. She hugged me and said she'd support me no matter what I decided to do next. After she left, I sat in stunned silence for hours, trying to process everything. When my husband came home that evening, I confronted him. I told him everything I knew and demanded the truth. At first, he tried to deny it, but when I mentioned the evidence my mother had, he broke down. He admitted everything. He told me how his sister had been desperate for a baby, and how she and my ML had come up with this plan. They had found a doctor willing to fake a stillbirth for a large sum of money. My husband said he had initially been against it, but his mother and sister had convinced him it was the right thing to do. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The man I had loved and trusted had betrayed me in the worst possible way. He had stolen my child and lied to me for years. He had watched me grieve for a baby that wasn't dead, all to please his sister and mother. I told him to get out of the house. I couldn't bear to look at him anymore. He begged for forgiveness, said we could work it out, but I was beyond hearing any of it. I told him I wanted a divorce and that I would be fighting for custody of both my children. The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings and emotional turmoil. I filed for divorce and started the process of reclaiming my stolen child. My lawyer was shocked by the case, but assured me we had a strong legal standing. We filed a lawsuit against my husband, his sister, my MIL, and the doctor involved. The evidence my mother had gathered was crucial in building our case. As the investigation progressed, more details came to light. It turned out that my MIL had been planning this since before I even got pregnant. She had known about her daughter's infertility and had seen my pregnancy as an opportunity. The excessive care and attention during my pregnancy had all been part of their plan to keep me calm and unsuspecting. The hardest part was learning about the day of the birth. Both my babies had been born healthy, but one was quickly whisked away while I was still groggy from the delivery. They had planned every detail, from the fake stillbirth announcement to the quick removal of my baby from the hospital. As the case progressed, I also learned that my husband's sister and her husband had no idea about the true origin of their adopted child. They had been told it was a private adoption arranged by my MIL. They were devastated when they learned the truth and immediately agreed to return my daughter. The court case was long and emotionally draining. My husband, Mill, and the doctor all faced criminal charges for their roles in the kidnapping and fraud. The judge was appalled by the case and showed no leniency. In the end, justice was served. My husband and MIL were sentenced to prison time. The doctor had his medical license permanently revoked. My husband's sister and her husband were not charged, but they had to undergo therapy and supervision before being allowed to pursue legal adoption in the future. Most importantly, I was reunited with my daughter. The day I finally got to hold her in my arms, knowing she was really mine, was the most emotional moment of my life. She looked so much like her sister. It was uncanny. The reunion wasn't easy, though. My daughter had bonded with my husband's sister and her husband, the only parents she had known for 2 years. The transition was difficult for everyone involved. We had to work with child psychologists to make the process as smooth as possible for both of my girls. It's been a few months since the reunion, and we're still adjusting. My twins are getting to know each other, and it's beautiful to see them together. But it's also heartbreaking to think of the time we lost. The divorce was finalized, and I got full custody of both girls. My ex-husband is allowed supervised visitation, but honestly, I'm not sure I'll ever be able to forgive him for what he did. The trust is completely shattered. My relationship with my MIL is obviously beyond repair. I can't even bring myself to think about her without feeling angry. My husband's sister and her husband have apologized profusely and want to maintain a relationship with the girls, but I'm still unsure how to handle that situation. My mother has been my rock through all of this. She's helped me with the girls, supported me through the legal battles, and been there for me emotionally. I don't know how I would have gotten through this without her. As for me, I'm still processing everything that happened. I'm in therapy, trying to work through my feelings of betrayal, grief, and anger. Some days are better than others. I'm overjoyed to have both my girls with me, but I'm also mourning the 2 years I lost with my daughter. I'm also dealing with the guilt of having not trusted my instincts during the pregnancy and after the birth. I knew something was off, but I let myself be convinced that I was just being paranoid. I'm trying to forgive myself for that. But it's not easy. The girls are doing well, all things considered. They're bonding as sisters, and it's amazing to watch. My formerly only child had to adjust to suddenly having a twin sister, but she's adapted remarkably well. My reunited daughter is still adjusting to her new home and family, but she's making progress every day. I'm taking things one day at a time. Some days, the anger and pain threaten to overwhelm me. Other days, I'm filled with joy at having my family complete at last. It's a roller coaster of emotions, but I'm doing my best to stay strong for my girls. I've connected with support groups for parents of kidnapped children who were reunited, and their stories have helped me feel less alone. It's a unique kind of trauma we've experienced, and it helps to talk to others who understand. Looking to the future, I'm focused on healing and building a new life for myself and my daughters. I'm planning to move to a new town for a fresh start, away from the painful memories and the prying eyes of those who know our story. I'm also considering writing a book about our experience, hoping it might help other families and raise awareness about the need for better safeguards in hospitals to prevent this kind of tragedy. To those who supported me through my original posts and the updates, thank you. Your kindness and support meant more than you know. To anyone who might be experiencing doubts or suspicions like I did, trust your instincts. Don't let anyone gaslight you or make you think you're being paranoid. And to any other parents out there who might be going through something similar, don't give up hope. Miracles can happen. I never thought I'd see my daughter again, and now she's asleep in the next room with her sister. It's been a long, painful journey, but I'm hopeful for our future. My girls are together, where they belong, and that's what matters most. We have a lot of healing ahead of us, but we'll face it together as a family.